originally from New Zealand, of course, but at the moment I am here in Tasmania. We've been traveling Tasmania for the last 3 weeks, and I thought, hey, why don't we do a bit of a live streaming here in beautiful Hobart. So yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit cloudy at the moment, it's also chilly, so I really want to move, you know, going along, because otherwise I'm getting a bit cold. So yeah, so let me know where you're from. I'll give you a quick overview what I'm going to do, what I'm going to show you. So we have a little bit of a walk around here in central Hobart, in the harbour area. Yes, it's very historic. I'll tell you a little bit about the history. I'm not an expert in Hobart, Tasmania, but I think I get a little bit of knowledge over the last 3 weeks. I'll tell you a little bit about the places in and around Tasmania. Yeah, any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer those. So let's start the show. Hello, Polly. Hello, Polly. Yeah, good, good. Oh, you've been here. Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, we decided after all these years that we should come over to Tasmania. It's a little bit similar to New Zealand. We have the same kind of seasons. It's now kind of winter season, June, July, August. Hi, Catherine. Sorry, my glasses. I have to put my glasses on again. So it's a little bit chilly, as I said, but look, we loved our time the last 3 weeks. Hello, Tariq, yeah, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. So we loved our time here, but we're leaving tomorrow for Melbourne. And yeah, we look forward to going further north in Australia to the tropical parts. I might do another live streaming from Port Douglas. That is, we're talking about 28 degrees at the moment instead of 7 or 8 degrees here. So I can't wait to get in the warmth. But let's get the show starting and talk a little bit here about Hobart. So I'll switch the camera around because there's really a lot of cool buildings. Hello, Margaret. Hello, Gregory. Liverpool, oh, it must be very late for you. I've selected the time at 9 o'clock local time here, but I really realized that it's a kind of midnight over there. So I'll keep it informative, so that you all can hang around before you go to bed. So I'll switch it around now and I'll just start talking. So look at this, we are here in central Hobart. I just do a little bit of swing around. So this is kind of the historic part. We're talking about Hobart really being established in 1804. There's a kind of a statue, as you have often here, this part of the world, with history. So, and Tasmania was discovered, just a very, very brief one. Tasmania was discovered by Abel Tasman in 1642, and it was actually before he came over to New Zealand. So he was Tasmania first. There's no evidence that Abel Tasman actually touched space, but anyway, 1642. And then the next one, the next big explorer really was Captain Cook. British, obviously, and then from 1803, 1804, they started to settle here in Tasmania. You obviously know about the Port Arthur, the convict colony. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just want to focus here first and keep moving to stay warm here. Focus here on this beautiful building, H. Jones and Co. And I will go there. I've just touched base with them. It's a boutique hotel now. So I'll just want to show you the inside, but first I want to talk about this one. And it's very interesting. Just you see that H. Jones and Co. used to be a jam company. You see the word jams? So they used to produce jams. And the IXL stands for I excel at everything I do. So this is written here. It's quite cool. So Henry Jones was the owner and was kind of like an entrepreneur in those days. And he established this jam factory. Tasmania is big with fruits, and so they had quite a large factory. Here's another one. Here's a kind of a picture of what it looked like. And yeah, that XIL, I excel with anything I do, which is quite cool. I think it's a cool philosophy. So here we are. This is again very much central Hobart. So let's move over there and let's have a quick look inside, because as mentioned, it's a boutique hotel. We don't stay there at the moment. We stay at another really cool place called the Tasman Boutique Hotel. I love the boutique hotels. But yeah, this is pretty much really historic Hobart, and just want to pop in there quickly. Again, if you have any questions, pop them on. Yeah, he excelled being modest. That's right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine, I mean, the stories I heard over the last 3 weeks about not only the settlers and the entrepreneurs, but especially also the convicts, you know, the stories, how they try to get out of like Port Arthur. But I'll talk about it in a minute or two. So let's just pop in there. Just a quick look, because it's really, really cool, very arty, and also warm. So I'll heat up a little bit to go in there. So let's have a quick look. I talked to them and they said, yes, we can do that. Let's get these people out there before. Good morning. Good morning. So look at that. No, the door has to be open. We don't want to, look at that. Isn't that amazing? So this is kind of like old meets new, and it's the reception area, obviously. There's a lot of local art, but the Australians really do that well. They kind of excel with combining the history and the modern facilities. So this is inside the Henry Art Hotel, boutique hotel. So just don't want to hold up these people too long. We have a little gallery here on the left-hand side too. I'll maybe just briefly pop in. The cool thing here in central Hobart also is we have 5G, believe it or not. We have 5G, so this is kind of like, oh, here we are. You may have heard about Tasman tiger. They got a, oh, it looks a bit, yeah, bit of a skin, but yeah, there's all sorts of wildlife. I talk about it in a minute as well. So let's get out here and go back into the harbour area. Okay, let's move out again. The Henry Jones Art Hotel. Right, now, okay, so how was that? Hope you enjoyed that. It was nice and toasty in there. I certainly enjoyed that. So let's head over towards the main part of the Hobart Harbour. I'll show you a little map there. Yeah, excellent decor. It is. I tell you what, I mean, the Australians really, they have, you know, the obviously the financial backup, I guess, but also the number of visitors. So one of the main industries here in Tasmania, obviously, is tourism. But I'll show you a map here of central Hobart, so where we are here. So we are here, as you can see. We just had a look here, the Henry Art Hotel. And what we just want to do, we just walk around here through the harbour area, and I'll talk about things, and we probably will finishing over there. I mean, look, this is the first time I do this tour. Never done this tour before, but I still really think it would be worthwhile hanging around and seeing things. We got my wife, she's been to the art gallery. We will go later on to Mona, which is a famous modern art gallery outside town. So yeah, let's move on. So here on the right hand side, you see the harbour with a lot of fishing boats. So the fishing industry here in Tasmania is one of the key industries. Hello, Trish. Yeah, key industries. Actually, when we arrived about 3 weeks ago here in Hobart, I went on a tour going over to Bruny Island. And they have, at Bruny Island, they have oyster farms. So this is really big business where they harvest the oysters in the morning, and we just picked them up with a guide and we were eating them for lunchtime. I had about half a dozen. I normally don't eat oysters, but yeah, I thought, why not? And yeah, you have to be mindful, some people are allergic, but anyway, so this is, yeah, the harbour area. You got the fishing boats. There's a lot of crayfish fishing going on as well. All sorts of fish, and I'll show you in a minute how important that is, because there's a couple of little businesses located right here on the wharf, which obviously get the fish straight from the boat. And you can buy either fresh fish or you can buy fish and chips. It's really cool, and it feels very authentic. It feels real here. It's a kind of a working harbour in a way. I mean, it's Sunday morning, so there's nobody working at the moment, but you see the crayfish pots, and I'm not sure what they're using this for, but anyway, in the distance you see crayfish pots, and yeah, I mean, those are the kind of hard-working people which bring in the goods, the fishing, and this is around Tasmania, obviously. By the way, Tasmania is the size around roughly about Ireland. So it gives you an idea. It has a coastline of 4,800 kilometers, I found out the other day. So it's quite a large place. We traveled around the whole island, did a kind of a loop. Took us about 2,100 kilometers, something like that. And so it's a big place. Also a little bit of history here, look at that. So this is a famous Australian explorer. I read up about it last night. His name is Louis Bernacchi. And Louis Bernacchi was the first Australian, apparently, to go down over winter in Antarctica. And he was also a photographer. So you can see here his camera, isn't that cool? And they kind of put in those sculptures, his dogs, and I'll go around a little bit more to show you some other details here. Look at that, isn't that amazing? Yeah, the pups, I'll tell you, I'll show you more. I'll show you more. Listen to that. The old penguins standing on the rocks here. And over there we have the sea lions. They look like sea lions, pretty big male here. But I mean, keep in mind, these are sculptures, they're not real. So yeah, it's you come across these little quirky things, kind of art. Behind here we have the big towing tugs, you know, for the fishing or for the container ships, I would imagine. So yeah, this gives you kind of a little bit of, yeah, they are wonderful sculptures. And look at those here, another angle here, another little the pups. So isn't that cool? Okay, let's move on. So fishing I talked about tourism. So when you look on the map, you see obviously Australia, and Tasmania is kind of located right on the bottom. It's the smallest state of Australia, and we have here in Tasmania about 550,000 people. So there's not a lot of people around here, and most of them actually live here in Hobart, about 250,000. Then you have another 100,000 in Launceston, and another, I think, 50,000 or whatever in Devonport. So the place is very underpopulated. So there's not a lot of people around. That the structure, in a way, the Australians work it here, that they have all separate states. So Tasmania is an own state, New South Wales is an own state, Western Australia, etc. And they have a parliament here, and we go there. At the end of the trip, we'll go to the parliament. They have their own government, they have their own prime minister, and they also have their own governor general. So I thought to myself, gosh, that's a very costly exercise, you know, having all these officials. But apparently it works, and I looked it up yesterday about, you know, the financials, and they get quite a bit of income through the taxes. And then, of course, as I mentioned, tourism is a big industry, but also we went to the western side of Tasmania, and there's a lot of logging happened. So there was a lot of logging, and guess what? They have 31 hydro power stations in Tasmania. 31! And a big cable, obviously, going to the mainland, and they more or less exporting that kind of hydro energy over to the big brothers, to the continent of Australia. So that was fascinating for me to hear about. So, and the other thing, obviously, which was very important in those days, 150 years ago or so, was they found a lot of minerals. Yeah, Tasmanian devils. Yeah, Polly, I have. And I think I put a couple of pictures or even a video on my YouTube. Yes, they are around. They're kind of really interesting little fellas. I went on a day trip over to Port Arthur. So that's another day trip I've done. So I've done one day trip going to Bruny Island, which is about, well, 2 hours with a ferry from here. And then I've done one trip going over to Port Arthur. And Port Arthur, I might as well talk about it now. Port Arthur was one of the 5 prison colonies they had here in Tasmania. But the devils, the Tasmanian devils, they kind of, they have a not a zoo, but they have a kind of a protected reserve where they have them. There are other places too around here, but that's the one I've seen, and they're really interesting little creatures. They don't live a long time. It's only 7 to 8 years. They have very hard, a very tough bite, so to say. They can crush bones and everything. And I've seen them. So cut a long story short, I've seen them, and they're still around. They're protected, obviously. We've also seen the wombat. The wombat. We went to the Cradle Mountain National Park the other day. We stayed a couple of nights, and we went for a glorious walk. I did a little video. It's on my YouTube channel, we saw actually 3 or 4 of them, wombats. They just appear out of nowhere. And it was really cool to spot these guys. They're kind of really used to the tourists, to be honest. So they walk around here. So here is not an information center, but actually a company. Yeah, the wombats are darlings. They're really cool. So this is, there's all sorts of tours you can do, obviously. I mean, some of you might have been here before, but Bruny Island is a big one. You can actually go directly from here, and my wife did that. She went on these boats. I'll show you them in a minute. So these are the kind of fast boats, and you can actually directly here from Hobart Central, you can basically do a tour over to Bruny Island. Takes about, I think, about 3 to 4 hours. I did the longer one. She didn't want to do it, but so yeah, these are the kind of boats brings you over there. So, and what do we have here? There's another little, there's all sorts of tours. So just briefly to Port Arthur. I mean, it's around about 3 hours from here, 3 hours one way. So it was a full day trip. It's one of the convict colonies, and they had it from the 1830s, mid 1830s. And they had in total around about, from memory, they had in total about 17,000 convicts, mainly from the mainly from the UK, but there were actually also some from the US. With a civil war over there going on, I think they had about 90. The British caught them somewhere, and they basically shipped them over here to Hobart, Tasmania, and to Port Arthur. And yesterday I came across here in one of the areas, and Battery Point it's called, they had actually an American consulate here. they had an American consulate here, and they were negotiating it, and at the end the President of the United States was actually yeah, basically released them, and they went back in the late 1800s. So are there remains of special pieces? What was that? Sorry, I missed that. I didn't see it fast enough, sorry. Deleted. Oh, Barbara, sorry, I didn't get there fast enough. So yeah, so that's Port Arthur, and it was very sophisticated. We went over there, a huge place. They basically used those men as well as boys. They had actually a specific boys camp island where they, up to 9 years old boys, young boys, they were actually held as, for all sorts of crimes, you know, for, no worries, have you interest in prison-related history? Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It was highly sophisticated. They had a very tight structure on how they treat those prisoners, and they came over for really minor offences. Yeah, they came over here for very minor offences, and it was just they were mainly, as I mentioned before, they're mainly used for you know, slave labour really. But after half a year, they were actually moving up the ladder, and they were releasing the chains, so to say. And yeah, we could do an on video there, but we had a guide telling all about that, like the stealing bread. Yeah, exactly. We had a guide, and it would be so cool if somebody would do a live streaming tour over there and go through the history and the stories, really. There were fascinating stories I can't all recall, but okay, let's jump back here to Hobart. So here we are, at the main bus stop here downtown, where people actually going on tours. Here's one of the tour going up Mount Wellington. Yeah. And Mount Wellington is just a hill outside Hobart. You can go up there on a clear day. It's apparently fascinating and beautiful to see, but as you can see today, it's grey, so I thought not to be bothered to do that today. So, but there's another kind of a coach option here. It's the hop-on, hop-off bus. They go through here every hour, and they stop at, there's a famous brewery, Cascade Brewery. There's the botanical gardens. There's quite a bit. So, right now, so briefly back to the minerals. So about 150 years, about 1810 or 1815, that kind of time frame, they started to discover tin, gold, copper, silver, and all sorts of really valuable minerals throughout Australia. And that was obviously the backbone for that new colony here where the wealth was established. So let's move a little bit further. Everybody is kind of packed up, wrapped up in the woolies and the warms. So we're going just to have a quick look over to the Parliament of Australia. This is right in front of us. Magnificent building. To be honest, I don't know too much about it, but let's go over there anyway and have a little peek look. Over there also we might, if we have a little bit time left, we have the Salamanca Market. That's a famous area, Battery Point it's called. They have a Saturday market. Oh, we're very fortunate. Somebody crossed a red light. Look, the church bells in the background here. So let's head over to the Parliament building. So that's what it looks like on a Sunday morning here. It's around about 9:30 or so. And yeah, I can imagine in the summertime this would be really amazing. I mean, the trees, look at the trees. Typical winter situation. You guys in the Northern Hemisphere, you know all about it. You're just approaching summer now. Yeah, it is beautiful, isn't it? I'll maybe give you a moment to listen to it. So yeah, I mean, it's this time of the year. Apparently the Australians, they move with the sun, with the warmth. So that's the reason when we travel through here. So what we did, we traveled from Hobart up the east coast. And the east coast is totally different to the western side of Tasmania. Very lovely beaches. It was still chilly, but lovely beaches, lovely little communities. Then we went to the northern part, a place called Stanley. That was amazing. I've done a couple of videos. I think I put them on my shorts. And then we basically went over to Cradle Mountains, and did some hiking there. Had lovely weather. Then we went over to the western side, Strawn, it's called Strawn, and that was a couple of days ago, and we came over back to Hobart. So we took about 2,100 kilometers. So anyway, so here is the old government building. As I mentioned before, every state in Australia, they have their own. Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Normally, I'm kind of doing my tours in New Zealand, but I just thought I'll take the opportunity to show you guys around a little bit here in Australia. And if you like, leave any comment if you're interested. I'm going up to the Wet Sundays, which is much warmer next week. And then we, as I mentioned, also we're heading to Port Douglas for 10 days or so. That's actually where all the Australians are now, because it's warm. As I mentioned, 26, 28 degrees, and we're really looking forward to that. We will going swimming, snorkeling, and going out on a catamaran. So yeah, but let's have a quick swing back. I'll walk a little bit faster. I don't want to make it too late for you guys, but especially you in Europe, it's getting really late now. So I'm heading over to the Battery Point area. So that is where the famous Salamanca market is. We just saw yesterday when we arrived on Saturday afternoon after 3, the market was just closing down. But this is a famous market. The whole street basically it's packed with stands, with shops. They have food, they have art, whatever you can imagine. It's all local. There's a big local art scene here, what we discovered during our trip. I'll show you some shops. I mean, I think you would be interested in that. We went through that yesterday. And coffees, of course. There are coffees everywhere here. I mean, here's one of them. We got another one right across our hotel. But yeah, they're everywhere, and I love coffee. So I might pop in, have a coffee after this trip. We want to go, as I mentioned, to Mona, which is a kind of an art gallery. Might be able to do kind of a video there. There's another coffee place here. But yeah, I want to show you that historic part, which goes right back into the early 1800s. So apparently here in Tasmania, unlike in New Zealand, they don't have earthquakes. So a lot of the buildings are actually, as they're quite intact. You might have heard, I mean, in New Zealand, once in a while we have earthquakes, and they can be quite devastating, especially with the old buildings. So those here you can see they're in pretty good nick, and they're used here as kind of like a supermarket. That's a supermarket, but I want to go inside here into that area with all the lovely shops are. Let's dive in. There's a restaurant, Italian. I mean, honestly, food. And that's another thing with Tasmania. They're really big with food, from fruits, meats, vegetables, anything you can imagine. So we had lovely, lovely food over here. Honey, shellfish, fish in general. Honestly, it's wonderful. And also what we really found, the people are so friendly. Anywhere we went, everybody was so helpful and helping us out. And we had a few days where we were a little bit sick. Everybody was so kind, and we really loved that. So yeah, let's swing around here in that Battery Point area. I mean, in summertime, must be gorgeous just to sit around, sip the coffee, be on holiday. Look at that. It's another sculpture. A dog. I'll go a little bit closer. Look at that. A dog is photographing the rabbit bunny lady. So it's a kind of Australian sense of humor, really. Everywhere you get that. It's they have a really, really good sense of humor and for art, of course. You know, they embrace. There's another one. Look at that sculpture. Look at that sculpture here. So somebody obviously put some washing powder in last night. I mean, you can imagine, it's the same everywhere. There's always some idiots. Let's move. I'll go a little bit faster. I just want to show you at the end kind of a little area with cute little shops. And also a bit of history again here. So here is the place where the Americans had their consulate. And that's the kind of story I mentioned before, where the English basically shipped over from 1837 to 1838 convicts, American convicts, which were fighting. Yeah, they were partly Canadians, partly Americans. But yeah, that was the place, the convicts, and they were sent back. They were returned to America, the last ones in 1854. So that's quite cool. And here's the original sign. Interesting, isn't it? So that goes all back, you know, nearly 200 years. So we walked through this here yesterday. Cool little shops. There was a whiskey bar. There's a whiskey bar here. It's not open. It's open at 12 o'clock, but we had a quick look in there yesterday. Really, really cool places. Okay, so yeah, I think hopefully you enjoyed our little tour. If you have any further questions, let me know. Happy to answer them. I'm getting out here now and just slowly walk back to the hotel. If you want to still stay in, that's cool. I'll just have a little look here. I think most of the shops are closed now, but we went there yesterday. Yeah, they're pretty much closed now. There's some galleries and yeah, wool shops, but they're all closed today. So yeah, I make my way back now to the hotel. It's been lovely showing you around. I intend to do at least another walk in Port Douglas. Yeah, Margaret, I'll be back in New Zealand, I think on the 24th of June or something like that. So we have another 3 weeks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's just a really a brief overview. Obviously, there's so much to talk about, but Tasmania is a special place. I really enjoyed traveling around here. The people, as I said, very friendly. The scenery is stunning. It's getting a bit cool, I have to say now. So we're glad to leave tomorrow, first to Melbourne and then further north. So yeah, everybody, thank you very much again. Join my Virtual Journey YouTube channel if you like. If you want to support the channel with a cup of coffee, that's much appreciated. So, but anyway, I'll swing it around and show my face again. So yeah, thanks very much, Barbara and everybody else. I'm back now, and catch you next time. Maybe when I'm over in Port Douglas, I'll give you notice in advance so you can schedule for that. Thank you, bye.